I'm Councilmember Jose Huizar. This is the Energy and Environment Committee. I've been joined by Councilmember Zine and Councilmember Cardenas. And I'm going to change my last name to Kizar, so I could start with two C's over here. Like, Mr. Zine wasn't laughing. So
I was laughing.
Okay. So if it's okay with my colleagues, we will put item number 5 on consent, and then we will go through the regular agenda. And Mr. Clerk, for the record, can you read item number 5, please?
Sure. Property operated with the CLA's office. Item number 1 relates to DWP report relative to grant of non-exclusive easements and rights-of-ways, County of Los Angeles, Department of Public Works, and the Plum Canyon Community Association. We have staff from DWP and the CAO.
Item 5.
Item 5.
You're reading item 5?
Oh, no, that was item number 1. You want
Yeah, I was going to do 5 consent. If you
Just
could
read it.
Okay,
so
sure.
read it
Not
into
a
the
problem.
record, so
Not a problem. Number
people
5
know
relates
we're
to...
consenting.
Sure. Relates to Board of Public Works report relative to sewage facilities charge refund to Playa Vista Capital in the amount of $500,000, a little over $500,000.
Great. Thank you. We'll put that on
One
consent.
quick question.
Okay.
on
Oh,
that
you do?
consent.
Okay. So
I
there's-
support the consent. I just have one question. Are they getting any interest on that money? Is there any interest, or is
On
it
item
just-
5,
Number
the
5.
Playa Vista, are they getting any interest on that money? Is that involved in the 553,000?
Okay,
Can you
that's all.
please come up to the microphone, state your name, and give that response, please?
Yes, my name is Anthony Munoz, Public Works Engineering, West LA District Office. And the fee, the refund is just the flat fee what funds were provided initially for the development of the subdivision.
Okay. Mr. Cardenas?
Now that you're up here, are you an engineer?
Yes,
Where'd you go to school?
Cal Poly San Luis Obispo.
Where'd you go to school?
UC Santa Barbara.
All right.
But we hung out with a lot of the guys from Cal Poly. Anyway.
Did you ever hang out with Mr. Cardenas?
No, sir, I did
Sure.
not.
I think I'm a little older than him.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we'll have that item go consent. Okay, next item.
Item number 1, Department of Water and Power report relative to the grant of non-exclusive easements and rights-of-ways of the County of Los Angeles and the Plum Canyon Community Association. We have staff from the DWP as well as the CAO.
A brief overview of just what this item is, just very brief, please.
My name is Mark Garcia. I'm with the Real Estate Group at Department of Water and Power. The department is proposing to convey 5 easements to the County of Los Angeles for various public works, public utility purposes, and 1 easement to the Plum Canyon Homeowners Association. That easement would be for landscape maintenance purposes. The department has decided to attempt to convey these easements to these parties due to the development of a tract in Santa Clarita, and it's staff's position that the development reasonably required these easements in order to proceed with the orderly development of the tract.
And how many parcels are we talking about?
There are 2 individual DWP parcels impacted. They have transmission line rights-of-way on them right now, but there are 6 separate easement parcels which will be conveyed to the parties.
Okay. And do we, will the DWP receive any revenue?
DWP has been, we have on deposit $104,000, which was paid by the developer at the time of their initial application. That amount was based on an appraisal that the developer commissioned. DWP staff has reviewed that appraisal and is still in concurrence with the value of it.
And so the way the easements work, we will still have access to the property, our operations, anything impacting our operations for these?
These, one of our staff's responsibilities is to make sure that these easements do not have an adverse impact on our operations.
Okay.
And as engineering staff has made that determination.
Okay. Any other questions? Mr. Cardenas?
Just is my first opportunity to ask this question. When it comes to easement rights and use of, when we allow uses of our DWP property in and around power lines, we've revamped and made it more, we've made it more strict than before since 9/11, correct?
I'm not aware of any new stringent requirements that the department imposes. There are some, okay, we're talking about electrical engineering issues, and that's outside my...
I'm just talking about surface issues when it comes to easements and giving people the opportunity to operate and/or have easement rights across our transmission lines. I'll just have my staff get a hold of the department, because I remember since 9/11, there was a situation where somebody was utilizing one of those pieces of property in my district, and then that they were told since 9/11, I'm really sorry, it's been more strict and we can't have you there anymore. So never mind, I'll have my staff talk to you guys offline. Okay, thank you. Okay.
Councilmember Zine, any questions?
No, all the reports show that should be approved, so
Okay.
vote for approval.
Okay, so motion by Mr. Zine, seconded by Mr. Cardenas. So ordered. Thank you.
Item number 2, Department of Water and Power report relative to extending and ratifying amendments associated with the El Dorado co-tenancy agreement with Southern California Edison. We have Randy Howard with Department of Water and Power, and Robert Roth with CAO.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, council members. Randy Howard, Director of Power System Planning and Development, LADWP. What we have before you today is seeking your approval over an extension and ratification of a co-tenancy agreement for the El Dorado Electrical Station. The Mojave El Dorado facilities are related to the Mojave Generating Station, which we shut down a number of years ago. This was the electrical yard and the transmission lines associated with this coal power plant that the city was part owner in, and we shut down that facility with the other co-owners. And we have been working since that time to separate the electrical facilities in the station and come up with a new long-term operating agreement. So what we're asking for is the ratification of the co-tenancy agreement, the existing one, and the allowance for us to extend that out while we continue to negotiate a new agreement. What we're looking to do is get a new agreement in place that will work for the parties. The challenges we have are Southern California Edison is the operating agent of the facility, and they've turned over all their transmission to the California Independent System Operator. So now we have a new party where they've turned over these assets. And then because it's a partnership where we have both publicly owned utilities, the Salt River Project, LADWP, and we have 2 investor-owned utilities, Nevada Energy and Southern California Edison. So they have FERC jurisdiction and regulations and public utility commissions they have to address. It's become quite complex for the negotiations. So what we're just asking is to extend the existing agreements while we continue to negotiate to have new long-term agreements, which then would come back before our Board of Commissioners, this committee, and the full council.
Okay, any questions or comments?
You're talking about till 2016, December 31st, 2016?
Yes, we are asking to have that ability that we would have a delegated authority that we could extend the co-tenancy in 1-year increments if we're unable to come up with an agreement prior to. Once we complete an agreement, the approval process for all the parties could be quite long and extensive as well.
And it's talking about the cost, $120,000, capital expenses, $600,000 from 2011 to 2016. What are we getting for the $600,000 from 2011 to 2016?
Those would be the capital expenditures required to keep the facilities operating. If we have to replace equipment within the electrical station, there are costs to maintain this large electrical yard and the high voltage transmission system. This does also include the extension of the communication system. We have communication equipment that allow us to remotely operate and have communication with the facilities.
So it won't generate power, it'll transmit power.
This is just for transmission. The generation has been dismantled at this site.
But the power lines are still...
That's
okay.
correct.
All right, thank you. Vote for approval.
Councilmember Cardenas?
The Mojave facility, is that coal facility that happened to be our, for lack of a better way of putting it, our dirtiest coal facility at that time? Is that the one that we dismantled?
It was our dirtiest or highest emitting facility that we had in our portfolio at the time. and the decision of the parties was to discontinue operation versus retrofitting, or we're looking at other alternatives.
Thank you.
So moved by Councilmember Zine, seconded by...
Excuse me, sir?
Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Robert Roth from the CIO's office. Since the time that the original request from DWP was submitted, the dates for the actual, the term of their agreement has been extended beyond what our recommended dates were. We still recommend approval of it. However, we want to enter in the record that the dates have changed, and I can work with the city clerk to enter it in for the record. As
What are the dates, then? What are you
Well-
extending to? 2016?
2016, exactly.
That's more of a technical matter. You don't
Yes,
have a
sir.
disagreement on the duration,
No, sir.
the substance of the matter. Okay, excellent. Thank you. So this item will be moved by Councilmember Zine, seconded by Councilmember Cardenas, and Mr. Labange just makes a special cameo appearance. Are you voting on this item, sir? Okay, I just want, if you want to vote on this, you could sit on in and vote on it, otherwise.
Now it requires a letter from the president.
So ordered. Thank you.
approval.
Next item.
Number 3, Department of Water and Power report relative to the Mojave Generating Station, the 2012 fiscal year budget and settlement. Staff from the CAO and Department of Water and Power as well, and the city attorney.
Welcome.
Good morning, Chairman and council members. My name is Eric Tharp. I'm the Director of External Generation for the power system. Thank you. And this item is seeking your approval for the 2012 budget associated with the Mojave Generating Station, which you just talked about a little bit before. We're in the process of decommissioning that facility. All of the buildings have been knocked down. There's a few more things to do. There is some groundwater monitoring that will be required for the next few years. So the request is to finish the decommissioning, which for 2012 we're estimating to be about $1.5 million. And the second item is to settle a lawsuit, and that would be about $4.5 million.
Great, thank you. On the 1.5 million in decommissioning costs, can you explain what these funds will be used for? I mean, what does that mean to be for the decommissioning costs?
Well, there is a contractor who's been hired to tear down all of the buildings, to clean all the ponds out, to make everything as if the plant wasn't there. And they have most everything torn down. The last item will be to demolish where the boilers are, and they're actually going to have an explosives contractor come in and blow that up, and that should be later this year. But then, so that's it. It's really the work associated with flattening the site, and the site could be used for other facilities down the road.
When do you think the station will be completely decommissioned and shut down?
It should be by the end of this year.
And no additional costs after that?
There will be some minor costs, about $100,000 a year would be our share for security and the continuing environmental monitoring.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
No.
Move it.
Okay, so moved by Mr. Cardenas, seconded by Councilmember Zine. So ordered. Next item, please.
Number 4, Board of Public Works report relative to the negative declaration and CEQA initial study for the Terminal Island Renewable Energy Project. Diane Gilbert, with the Bureau of Sanitation.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Council President Weezar and other council members. My name is Diane Gilbert Jones. I work for the Bureau of Sanitation, Regulatory Affairs Division, and we have before you today a California Environmental Quality Act environmental document concerning an existing project that is currently in operation at the Terminal Island Renewable Energy Plant. It's known as the TIRE project. I'd like to give you a little historical background on the project and bring you to date as to what's happening with the project and why we're actually seeking adoption and approval of this environmental document. Excuse me.
And for the record, we've been joined by Councilmember Koretz. Sorry, go ahead.
The city processes wastewater, and we have 2 treatment plants that process biosolids. and biosolids, or the solid residuals that are left over after wastewater treatment, the solid portion, also known as poop. And
What was that, the technical term?
and we have, this year, 2011, we processed over 250,000 tons of biosolids, and that equates to about 22 truckloads a day. And so what the city has done is that we have engaged in, for over the last 20 years, a beneficial use program of managing our biosolids. Currently, we land supply 74% of it at our farm in Green Acres in Kern County. We manage 9% through composting at various options, and the remaining 17% is managed at the Tire Project. And what we are doing with the Tire Project is we're looking at the first of its kind innovative technology of looking at a new option for managing the city's biosolids. And what that entails is injecting the biosolids 5,000 feet below ground, letting the earth in its natural state and its heat biodegrade the material to produce ultimately a renewable energy, methane, that could be used further through city sources. The project has been in operation since June 2008. Today, we processed over 150 million gallons of this bioslurry material, and there has been no environmental impacts related to the project, and we've seen some environmental benefits. We are currently working under an expired permit that expired November 2011. It's a US EPA underground injection control permit, and we're seeking to renew that permit for another 5 years. In the process of doing so, we would have to make some upgrades to the project and also do some additional work, and that's what this environmental document is addressing. We would like to we would like to drill an additional 4th well to help us meet some of the objectives of the project. We would drill that well to an additional 2,000 feet beyond the existing wells that we have, and we would also like the ability to be able to inject in 2 wells at the same time. We're asking for that request through EPA. And currently in our existing project, we don't have any options available for us to maintain the existing wells that we have in the event of a natural disaster or mechanical failure. So we're asking in this new permit to actually make provisions for addressing the existing wells that we have. We released the subsequent negative declaration for the project in November. We received 3 comments back. 2 of the comments were positive. One of the comments was not specifically related to the CEQA document, but to the project itself. Those comments are attached with the transmittal that you have. And so today we're asking that the additional proposed changes under this CEQA document be approved and adopted by this committee and then forwarded to the board for final approval and adoption by the city.
Okay, thank you. And I know this is an adoption of a subsequent negative declaration of environmental impact. However, should the project continue to be successful, are there opportunities for expanding it or implementing similar projects that we could better manage our biosolids for the city?
Yes, there is. And the reason that we're actually demonstrating this project, and there's a lot of experimental objectives that we're trying to meet in asking for an additional 5 years, is that we would like for this project to become part of the underground injection control permitting requirements for the EPA. Currently, there is not a category or class for this type of material. There are classes for other types of sludge materials to be injected, but not specifically biosolids. So that's one of the things that we're hoping that this project would prove to be successful in being able to use the biosolids as a renewable energy through deep well injection.
Great, thank you. Any other, Councilmember Cardenas?
Yeah, thank you. I think it's commendable for our department to do this. As you mentioned, it's this project that hopefully perhaps will actually create a category that EPA can recognize and then work from. But once again, the City of Los Angeles is recognized internationally over and over and over, various departments, especially when it comes to our technical staff around the city, that we do things that other jurisdictions either haven't done or weren't brave enough to attempt. And I'm glad to hear that so far this project is turning out pretty much as expected.
Yeah.
That isn't always the case. A lot of money is invested, a lot of research and development has been invested as well, So I definitely support the extension of the 5 years. But in addition to that, I'm not saying this tongue-in-cheek. I'm actually saying it a little seriously. Anytime you're dealing with waste, it's really easy for the community to get up in arms saying, oh, my God, what's going on? Why are they bringing it in our neighborhood? And the fact that it's labeled T-I-R-E, tire, I wouldn't put it past the community to someday accuse the department of taking tires and recycling tires, which is a whole different matter when it comes to environmental impacts. I'm serious about asking the department, maybe you want to go ahead and relabel it. It's not a technical thing, but you certainly don't want to fall into a situation where you're having to defend a non-argument about a facility that could easily come under attack for no good reason. I mean, you know, you have, maybe you can call it E-R-E-T-I instead of T-I-R-E. I know that I might be trying to split hairs here, but I wouldn't put it past one loudmouth in the community to accuse your department for, you know, burning tires or something like that in their backyard. And we know how the press loves to grab that stuff and just run with it. And even though there's no truth to it, before you know it, the public in their ignorance are going around pointing at the facility saying that you're burning tires there. So just a bit of advice.
Well, when you're splitting hairs, you got your technical terms, so maybe you could split hairs and use that technical term you discussed earlier.
Yeah.
What technical term was that? I'm sorry, did I miss that?
I think this is more than you bargained for here. Now we're going in a whole other direction. But thank you for your presentation. Any other questions? Mr. Koretz, Councilmember Koretz.
Yeah, just a basic question. I don't completely understand the technology. How is there room for this many tons of biosolids being injected into the earth?
Oil wells.
Were you talking about a geological formation that extends several miles underneath Terminal Island that is available for open gas and oil refinery space? So that's the space that we're using that's already available in that site. So we're actually using formations that already there have been created through the years. And so we're actually using that space for the injection.
And what's the capacity of that? I assume we can't do this indefinitely before we fill it. I mean, this seems like a massive amount of material.
I don't know what the capacity is, but based upon the geology that we have, we're looking at 50 years plus in the void space that we're in now.
Yeah, that's in essence my question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Past our life.
Thank you. Pretty good amount of time.
Thank you. So
Yeah.
this will be moved by Councilmember Zine, seconded by Councilmember Cardenas, and no objections, so ordered.
All approved.
And Mr. Koretz, Councilmember, that's the end of our agenda, correct?
Yeah, it is.
Councilmember Koretz, would you like to be counted as a yes on the other items?
I would be very pleased to do so.
Okay, so we'll have him yes then. Mr. Cardenas, any other further business?
Just in general comment, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the way you run your committee. I'm looking forward to serving with you. I've been on this committee the whole time I've been on the council, and I think a lot of important matters go through here. But I do want to thank you, Mr. Chairman, for clarifying with me the rumor that I had heard that being on a committee where you chair that you'd like to be addressed as your illustrious chairman, sir. Thank you for clarifying for me that is not true. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Cardenas. You know, I'd like to remind you of my humble beginnings, born in an adobe home in the mountains someplace in Mexico. So I still remind myself of that and where I come from and who I am. So no,
Not forgetting.
in your case, you could just call me your Highness Chairman Weezer, and that would be fine. Your Royal Highness Chairman Weezer, that would be fine. Thank you very much. I look forward to serving as chair of this committee. We have some great committee members. Thank you very much. Meeting adjourned.
Good.